Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to review the new financial planning tool. Augsburg has an exceptional record with transparency and financial literacy, and this portal was designed to continue to build and enhance our work, specifically with incoming first year and transfer students, to make sure they have a financial plan in place before beginning their educational journey with us. The new portal lives on their admission student portal page, something the student is already very familiar with. It will be available after a student is admitted to the college and awarded financial aid. This year, it will be highly encouraged, while next year it will be required. From their portal, students will click on Complete Your Financial Plan once it's available to do so. From this page, it does load specific expenses based off of how the student had submitted their application or their FAFSA. So in this example, the student is a first-year student who intends to live on campus. Tuition and fees, along with their OGSM fee, is included in this line. And then on-campus housing and meals are in this line. Now you'll notice that the total expenses are calculated on the bottom for the student. There are additional expenses that the student can include if they know what to expect. So if the student knows they're planning to take a music lesson, they can click on this and it will automatically add it to their total expenses. There are some items that the dollar amount can't be changed, but books is one that it can be changed. If they click on books, it's estimating $1,200 for the year or $150 per course. If the student knows that they'll be renting books or able to, we'll have courses that won't need books that are that expensive, they can go in and make any adjustments they want. And again, the total expenses will update on the bottom of the form. Once the student finishes filling out this page, they can click Submit. And will automatically take them to the next tab here. Now on this tab, the expenses from the previous tab are automatically pulled over. Tuition grants and scholarships that the student has already been awarded are included here. This would include things like their admission merit scholarships, along with any need-based aid they were awarded, including an Augsburg tuition grant, Minnesota State grant, or a Pell Grant if eligible. And it creates a total amount due for the student. And you'll notice that floating bar will be here as well. It remains red while the student has a balance. So in this case, the student has a balance of $31,000 remaining. And it asks the student, how do they plan to pay for it? The student can select any of the options, and as they select options, new prompts will show up on the bottom to help walk them through what this might look like. Now, if the student is unsure how they plan to pay for school, a pop-up appears giving them information about how to schedule an appointment with the Student Financial Services team. This field will be updated when in-person appointments become available again. So it asks how much the student might be able to afford at the beginning of each semester. So this would be a lump sum payment due in August and then in January for the student. So in this case, we'll say the student has a grandparent who's willing to give them $2,000 at the beginning of each semester. And it asks them to list any outside scholarships so that they've already been awarded. So the student has a Rotary scholarship coming to them for $1,500. You notice as I enter items in here, the remaining balance continues to decrease. Now, part of this tool, we ask them for additional information. It's for the student's planning, but it's also for the benefit of financial aid counselors. After a student is done, when they're done submitting this form, the student receives a copy of the form, so they have their own planning worksheet, but also financial aid counselors will receive a copy of the form as well. The counselors will review it to make sure it seems logical, and will then be able to follow up with students who might have any questions. It's also a great tool to send students reminders to submit their scholarships or their one-time payment. If a student was awarded loans, federal student loans, they will see the options to add in direct loans. Again, this is a first-year student, so the maximum amount of direct loans they would be eligible for is $5,500. If the student tries to put in a higher amount, they get a warning that they can't continue unless they put in a loan amount of $5,500 or less. So we'll make that correction. The other piece to note here is if a student is planning to borrow loans, oftentimes these loans come with an origination fee, meaning the balance that gets paid to the school is less than what they actually are borrowing. And this form will calculate that. So if they were planning to borrow a loan to cover the remaining balance that they had, you'll notice they enter in that amount, but there's a remaining balance that continues, and that's because of the origination fees. Within the payment plans are set up for to cover their balance for the year over 10 months or 5 months each semester. So instead of asking the students how much they can afford on a payment plan, we ask them how much they believe they can afford each month. And then it calculates it by, multiplies it by 10 to come up with the amount remaining here. If the student goes over, it tells them this, that again, they've more than covered their expenses for the year and can make any adjustments that they might need. If the student gets to the very end of the form here and has a balance, they get this question that says, how are you feeling about the balance here? And they can click that they're feeling great, or if they're feeling uncertain, another pop-up happens here. And it asks the student who might be living on campus or intending to live on campus if they would consider living off campus. Now, living off campus may mean that they have fewer housing expenses, but their financial aid would also be adjusted here. So what the student can request by selecting yes, that they would like more information about living off campus, is a financial aid. Once this form is submitted, financial aid will receive this notification and be prompted to create a new financial aid award and follow up with the student to help them make a decision on if it makes sense for them to live on or off campus. If they're feeling uncertain, but definitely do want to live on campus, again, the counselors will be able to follow up with them to talk through some of the expenses and payment options and aid that they have here. This would be a great time for the counselors to talk about work study opportunities, lowering some of their expenses, applying for additional scholarships or loans, certain tools that financial aid counselors have, but need a little bit more information from the student before they can proceed. This is a great tool for the counseling team. The next tab really is designed to help the student see what their next steps are. So based off of what was selected on the previous page, the student will see different messaging here. So because I selected that I was going to pay with a Parent Plus loan and direct loans, I see information about how to take out my Parent Plus loan, how to finish my application for direct loans. I selected that I would enroll in a payment plan. And at this point, payment plans for this upcoming fall don't begin until July. So different times of year, we can have different messaging here, but a note to remind the student that they do need to enroll in the payment plan. Information about making a payment is here as well. And also in the outside scholarships, it reminds them to contact both of their outside scholarship organizations in this case, and have these scholarship organizations send Augsburg the scholarship funds. For every single student, they'll see a message about scheduling an appointment, as the financial aid counseling team really finds it valuable to have a connection with each and every incoming student to make sure that all of their questions are answered and they feel confident in their plan to pay for their education. Now, at this point, a student will receive in their inbox a summarized copy of their expenses, payments, and their next steps. At any point, the student can also print off each of these individual pages for their own records. And depending on how the student answered some of these other questions, financial aid counselors will be able to follow up with students to send them reminders. As an example, for that payment plan that the student can't enroll in until July, when payment plans do open, the financial aid team will be able to pull a list of all the students who said they intended to pay using a payment plan and can send communication out to them to remind them to enroll in their payment plan. Well, that didn't pull up, but it really is just a summary of what we're looking at here. The following 3 tabs are really getting at that transparency and making sure students understand the loan feasibility and paying for school. So again, based off of the previous questions that I had answered on the payment tab, different things will pop up on this loans tab. So specifically, more information about the direct loan and the Parent Plus loan here. But this also includes information from the federal websites about general information about federal student loans. So what are they? What is an interest rate? How does all of this work? To give some students more information about their loans that they're intending to borrow. This tab does not appear if students don't select that paying by loans options. And the summary tab is meant to help the students better understand what all this means when they're paying for school. That their total charges are here, the total gift aid, again, this is their Augsburg gift aid here, and any federal or state gift aid. It includes their loans and out-of-pocket payments. So the loans would summarize their direct loans, the Parent Plus loans, and any private loans they listed. The out-of-pocket payments would include any lump sum payments the student intended to pay, as well as the payment plan payments. In this case, we have a remaining balance due, and it still allows the student to walk through the process. Again, this would be a red flag for a financial aid counselor to reach out to the student to make sure they have a plan to cover their remaining balance here. And the last page is really designed to help students understand that this isn't just a 1-year commitment, it's a 4-year commitment. Now, it's a difficult piece to figure out exactly how long it will take a student to get to graduation, and knowing exactly what their expenses will be every year. Oftentimes, students might live on campus their first year or two and then move off campus. They might receive different scholarships while they're enrolled here, or take advantage of different opportunities like studying abroad or taking a summer class. So because of that, we can't tell a student exactly what their expenses will be for their time at Augsburg, but we wanted to give them a tool to start estimating and thinking about that. So we'll ask them how long they think it will take them to graduate. Again, this is portal is used for first-year students and transfer students. Some transfer students might only be here for 2 years. But in this case, we'll assume it's going to take us 4 years. Now, this does just take the loans that were calculated and times it by 4, as well as the estimated total out of pocket and times it by 4. Again, this is meant to be a counseling tool so students can ask questions about the feasibility and affordability. We often would tell a student, we need to come up with a new plan because $82,000 isn't something we want you to graduate with. There's information on the financial aid's website about outside scholarships and how to apply for them. And so we link directly to that webpage, as well as information about work study. Now you'll notice that we didn't include work study on any of the payment options here because oftentimes incoming students have unrealistic expectations about what they can earn with their work study position. And if they do end up earning their full work award, which is great, it does take a disciplined student to use those funds to cover, say, a payment plan. Oftentimes, students are using those expenses to cover, or using that income to cover their own living expenses, which is great, and what we want students to be able to do with their work study fund. So we don't make an assumption that that work study is going to help cover any of their expenses here. There's additional information about repaying loans that is a really useful tool for students, that they'd actually log in using their FAFSA login information, and they can do a loan simulator, and it asks them what they might borrow during their course of their education, which is why it's so important that they can see it right here. And the financial awareness counseling does the same thing. It asks them how much they might end up borrowing, and does some repayment estimators for them. So the student can feel confident with what they might be borrowing, even though it's maybe higher than what they were thinking, that maybe the payments are going to be more affordable because of different resources that the federal government might offer, or the repayment options the student might have. So all of this is designed to help students become well-informed and ask better questions when they are meeting with the financial aid counselors. Now, again, all of this will, students will receive a copy of this information in their email inbox. Financial aid counselors will also receive a copy to be used throughout the summer to counsel students and to connect with them, to reach out to them, and making sure they're having these proactive conversations before we get into fall. And then once we are in fall, if the student has any concerns about their balance, it's a helpful tool for counselors to walk a student back to say, gosh, you do still have a remaining balance, but I saw on your payment sheet that you were expecting an outside scholarship that we don't have received yet. So it's a helpful tool for the counselors to maybe remind the student to contact the Rotary and get that outside scholarship in and help reduce a balance. So again, the goal with all of this is to really help the students better understand what it means to pay for school and have a plan in place before they even get started. Thank you so much for your time in reviewing this portal with us. If you have any questions or comments or concerns about this, please do let me know.